Hey you guys, what's going on? It's Teenage Knight, and this video is my Madden 16 franchise announcement video. This will be where I show you what team I'm going to be using and any preseason changes that I decide to make. So let's go ahead and get into this. So as you can see from the thumbnail, there was a choice of 4 teams for me to pick from. The Arizona Cardinals, the Miami Dolphins, the Cleveland Browns, and my favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles. I wanted a team that needed rebuilding, so I did not choose the Eagles. The Eagles were eliminated immediately because in terms of Madden ratings, even though we're not that great in real life right now, we're pretty well stacked in terms of Madden ratings, so that's not really a rebuilding project. The second thing is I wanted a young quarterback, so that eliminated the Arizona Cardinals because Carson Palmer is not exactly a young quarterback. So that left the choice down between the Miami Dolphins and the Cleveland Browns. And my choices really were, who is going to be more of a rebuilding project? Is it going to be the Cleveland Browns, or is it going to be the Miami Dolphins? I was slider testing with both teams, and what I have decided is that Corey Cannon Sr., the father of Oklahoma star quarterback Corey Cannon, will now be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And the reason I'm deciding to use the Browns is because they have 2 young quarterbacks in Austin Davis and Johnny Manziel. They also have Josh McCown, and all 3 quarterbacks will be competing for a spot on the roster and the starting job during the preseason, obviously. So that is the reason I've decided to use the Browns. They also need a lot more rebuilding, and I will go into that a little bit more later. Now let's take a look at the base roster for the Cleveland Browns. Starting quarterback right now is Austin Davis. Best running back is Robert Turbin. And this roster does not look good. Every position will have a position battle in the preseason. I'm only going to use Josh Gordon in the first couple preseason games. I actually have most of those played already, but I used him in the first 2 and then decided I'm not going to use him this season. So I'm going to take it a little bit more realistically and play without Josh Gordon this season, but season 2, I will be using Josh Gordon. I'm going to pretend like his suspension is up after this season. So obviously receiver is a concern this season, but I'm not exactly expecting us to win the Super Bowl in season 1. And also, I'm going to try to avoid as many of the overpowered plays that I was apparently running in the Jets franchise, because I tried the Jets franchise and it wasn't fun for me near the end of the season because it got really unrealistic. Like, I had Geno Smith throw 45 touchdowns. He was a 99 overall by the end of the season due to the confidence system and the rating system. And that was another reason why this series was delayed so long, because I normally like to start them like 1 or 2 weeks after Madden comes out, but there was a lot broken in this franchise mode. I think there's still some stuff broken, but it's nowhere near as game-breaking as it was. Like, there were offensive linemen losing a lot of their ratings. They were regressing by a lot, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And then also, I don't know if they fixed it yet. I haven't heard about this one getting fixed yet, but I'm hoping by the time we get to the end of this season it will be. Some players won't re-sign, and some free agents that are like in the 70 overalls want like $30-40 million contracts. But we are just going to hope that that stuff is fixed by the time we get to the offseason. Now the next thing I want to talk about is, I've said before, I was pretty much dead set on doing 4 games in one video because I was like, oh, we'll get through the season faster. But after editing what a part of the preseason I have done, I don't like that. I don't like showing you that little of every game unless like I did an hour to an hour and a half video, which isn't going to work for me. So what I'm going to do right now is still 1 game of video. And I know that may take longer to go through the season, but you guys will get to see how everyone is playing. Because in the preseason video, which I think is going to be around 30 minutes, you can't see how well everyone else is playing. You just see like the highlights, but you don't see, you know, these like undrafted receivers dropping passes that I had to cut. Now I do say the names of all the people I'm going to cut, but you know, we'll get to that in the preseason. So now I'm going to show you all the players that I signed before I started playing preseason games, and the first guy we're going to bring in is wide receiver Shane Wynn. And this receiver just has a ridiculous amount of speed. I think it was like a 97 speed and 98 acceleration. He doesn't have good release or route running, so he's kind of a project, but he could very well be a very big part of our offense this season. Another receiver that I'm going to bring in is wide receiver Josh Boyce. He's got good speed, he's got decent catching, decent route running, I believe, and he might be a pretty big part of our offense too this season. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I did consider signing Ray Rice. I eventually would decide to pass on it, but I really considered it because our running backs aren't great, but I like what we have right now. Not too much to say about this signing, just that we need help on the offensive line, so I went ahead and signed one of the best tackles. If you guys were paying attention during the depth chart part of this video, you saw our kickers overall wasn't very good, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in someone else to give him some competition with Connor Barth, and we will see who wins that job by the end of the preseason. Now, the next signing was to get us some more cornerback help because all we have at cornerback really is Joe Hayden. Another corner that I'm going to bring in is cornerback Chris Cook, who is going to be competing for the number 2 job. I may have gone a little overboard when signing cornerbacks, but it's a very, very weak position for us, and all of these guys are going to be competing for the number 2 through the number 4 spot. So this will be our starting roster for week 1 of the preseason. Austin Davis at quarterback, Isaiah Crowell at running back. Obviously, you see our O-line actually looks pretty good. But Josh Gordon, we will be using him for the first couple preseason games. Then we have Dwayne Bowe at our number 2 and Andrew Hawkins as our number 3 right now. And then obviously all the other guys that are competing for roster spots. Now, anyone on this team, pretty much minus our center, left guard, and left tackle, and Josh Gordon, can be cut this offseason unless they get injured and we are not allowed to cut them at that point. And like I said earlier, almost every position is a position battle. And then we have our starting defense, and defensive tackle doesn't look so good, but cornerback number 1, Joe Hayden, you have locked up your job. You are the number 1 corner. Number 2 is Tramon Williams as of right now, and then number 3 looks to be Dennard, and then Quan Williams, and then Chris Cook, and then down the line. But everyone will get playing time, and that is where I will decide if they're going to get a roster spot or not. The only one on this defense that has secured a roster spot is Joe Hayden, Taj Gibson, and Dante Whitner. And finally, we have special teams. Connor Barth will be our starting kicker. Coons will get some kicks throughout this preseason, but if he doesn't show something early on, he is definitely gone. Our punt returner and kick returner will both be position battles this preseason to try to figure out who exactly we want to put back there. I thought about actually putting Shane Wynn back at kick returner and seeing what he could do, but unless they return one back in the preseason, you guys won't see any of that position battle. And I do apologize for that, but I don't feel kickoffs are important plays. Anyways, that is the introduction and the announcement video all combined in one. I was going to make it 2 separate videos, but the announcement video is going to be like 2 minutes. I didn't feel like there was a point. Anyway, hopefully you guys are excited for the preseason to get underway. That will all be in one video, hopefully coming out within the next week or so. And I guess I will talk to you guys then.